Good morning. So thank you very much indeed for having invited me once again to come and join this great community. I was thinking in the same terms as you, community. I'm really delighted to be here with you today for a conversation on a topic that really matters, ensuring trust by design in the age of agentic AI. Christoph already introduced me. I'm Hilde Herdeman. I work for the European Commission, where I lead the Publications Office of the European Union. What do we do? Our core business, but we do also other things, our core business is to authenticate and publish EU law to give it legal effect, like the King's Printer in the United Kingdom, like the Government Publications Office in the United States. And we do so on behalf of the European Union's institutions. Without us, no law. Our work is therefore about democracy and the rule of law, about transparency, trust, and empowerment. Now, digital technology and the trustworthy use of AI are our allies in this work. Artificial intelligence, if used well, helps to increase the transparency of decision-making processes, to demonstrate in practical ways how decision-making at the EU and national levels is closely intertwined. And it also allows citizens and businesses to get a personalized view in a language and a form they understand. We work in 24 languages, as you will know, so that they can get a clear view of what these decisions mean for them in real life, in their specific situation, and so that they can make the most of all the opportunities the European Union offers. Now, when we previously met here in Edinburgh, I was not here last year, but in 23 and 24, the focus of our considerations was largely on trustworthy AI. We discussed how chatbots and conversational AI tools respond to user requests and how they support decision-making. The systems we saw impressed us very much by how well they analyzed, translated, summarized, or responded to questions. We focused to a large extent on how to ensure that users could trust the information from these tools and on how these systems could best help people to work more effectively in whatever they did and support us, public administrations, to better serve citizens and businesses. But since then, the context has changed quite radically, and not only in geopolitical terms. Today, chatbots and conversational AI systems are increasingly decisional and in many cases operational. They manage ever more complex tasks in our personal lives. They write code for IT systems. They ensure operational quality management. To give just a few examples, we have moved into a world of agentic AI, of systems that act on our behalf. And this changes the nature of trust in a most profound way. Trusting an answer of an AI system is one thing, but delegating action to an AI system is something else entirely. And this raises a simple but most fundamental questions. Under which conditions can we trust agentic AI systems to act on our behalf, to become the interface for things that matter deeply in our lives? We see agentic AI systems becoming filters that directly affect our way of seeing the reality, becoming doorways to public services that provide an understanding of that reality, of our rights and obligations, of what citizens can do and what is expected of them. And when AI systems operate in such fields and in such ways, a mistake is no longer an incorrect answer. A mistake shapes perceptions, influences citizens' decisions, affects people's behavior. And that is why the shift to agentic AI must result in moving trust upstream. I don't know which slide I have behind me, but I think, I'm sorry, I was going to ask to put now the previous slide. So, voila, thank you. And this trust, moving trust upstream, is about the quality of both outputs and inputs. It's about the depth and breadth of the information that is considered. It's about governance, and it's about the provenance of the data and the information on which these systems rely. These must be grounded in authentic and reliable public data. So with the shift to agentic AI, trust cannot begin at the interface. It must be there from the very beginning, from the very foundation. Trust must begin with the sources that feed the system, the structures that govern it, the accountability that surrounds it. We have to carefully and consciously build in trust by design. And if we say that trust starts at the sources that feed the system, then we also need to take into account that the integrity of those sources is under high pressure today. We operate in a geopolitical environment in which digital information flows are shaped not only by public debate, but also by strategic intent. We see this very well indeed, that adversarial actors, let me call them like that, you all know who I mean, adversarial actors, actively seek to influence narratives by feeding content into global data and information streams, content that reflects particular perspectives and interests. And while this is certainly not new, what has changed is the speed with which the digital space evolves and also the way it operates. We are operating in an information ecosystem that is shaped by autonomous systems, contested narratives, algorithmic competition. And what is more, you all know that AI systems serve as multipliers. The systems themselves decide which messages are seen. Misleading content can influence the direction of the conversation, and the infrastructure as such can be shaped to amplify this information, with agentic AI feeding back to conversational interfaces, creating a vicious circle. And we need to be aware that distorted or low-quality information does not only circulate among citizens, it's also ingested by the machines. Large language models are trained on vast digital corpora, and distortions can become embedded in the systems themselves. Adversarial actors, they know that very well indeed, and they act on that. And we must be very well aware of that in our turn. Then there's the risk of conversational drift, that systems gradually move away from authoritative sources and established standards of authenticity to a reality of their own making. And at the same time, AI systems may come to be seen as more trustworthy than institutions, because these systems may, erroneously in a certain way, be considered as supposedly free of political influence. But what is true for medical imaging, we all know that doctors are better served by AI to look at the images. It's less applicable for data and information that is man-made. Again, we must be very well aware of this. Public administrations, along with many other societal actors, can and must provide stabilizing points of reference, grounding conversational and agentic systems in verified, traceable, and authentic knowledge. And this leads me to my next point. If authenticity can be challenged at the level of the data and the training, how do we ensure that trust is truly built into the architecture of our systems? How do we come to trustworthiness by design? Now, please, you can show the next slide. The European Union has chosen a particular path, building a regulatory environment that recognizes the social impact of AI. We have the AI Act, the Digital Services Act, we have dedicated government structures. So in the European Union, we put an emphasis on governance as an enabler. That matters. When conversational AI systems move from assisting humans to acting on their behalf, on our behalf, the conditions under which these systems operate must be clear, predictable, and anchored in democratic oversight. In a public sector that respects European values, privacy by design, security by design, and accountability, along with human oversight, transparency, and technical robustness are fundamental. But, and here comes my but, In the world of agentic AI, these are not sufficient. When an agentic AI system guides a citizen through an administrative procedure, pre-fills forms, recommends public benefits, or initiates registration steps, the interaction unfolds in real time. And the person who is guided by the system may not see the underlying source material. They may not have sufficient information to distinguish between interpretation and facts. And in many cases, they will rely on the system's perceived authority rather than verifying its output independently. So in such contexts, the safeguards I've mentioned are not enough. With agentic AI, knowing who stands behind the information becomes as important as knowing what the information says. We need to be able to guarantee that the information is grounded in authentic and authoritative sources. And that's where we move from general trustworthiness to trust by design as an architecture principle, whereby authenticity and provenance are built into the system from the outset. Let me briefly outline how we seek to support this approach of trust by design at the EU Publications Office in our daily work. We do so by providing a wide range of mechanisms to anchor agentic AI systems in authoritative sources that are accessible for public administrations, businesses, and citizens alike. Authoritative data can be retrieved through programmatic interfaces and structured queries. Information can be accessed through search engines and recommended by systems embedded in our portals. And systems can rely upon the semantic technology of our world-class, I lost my text. Of our world-class knowledge graph, our seller. Together, these layers form an ecosystem that transforms raw data into meaningful understanding, where context-aware AI agents can fetch and synthesize insights from multiple authoritative sources. And then further, to the extent that conversational agents are becoming our new front door, we seek to ensure that content is not only accessible, but findable, verifiable, and optimized for use. Optimized for human use means clear authorship, logical structure, easily readable language, and accessible design, a positive user experience. And optimized for digital systems implies well-defined structure and format standards, rich metadata, consistent terminology based on authoritative vocabularies, robust technical architecture, and machine-readable identifiers. It's at this point where provenance by design becomes decisive, where accessibility must evolve into identifiability and verifiability by design. Conversational AI must be able to correctly contextualize, locate facts relevant to its task, and link related concepts across multiple domains, and in our case, across the 24 languages that we use in the European Union. And to achieve this, we use a digital trust signal, a set of digital trust signals which we embed in our data and information throughout. First, we use persistent identifiers such as, for example, the European legislation identifier, which provides stable and ambiguous references, and combined with long-term preservation. I see there's some colleagues here from national libraries, so long-term preservation is very important. All of this together ensures, in our case, that a legal act can be located and cited with certainty today and in the future, also in 500 years if needed. Second, we ensure version control, which allows clear tracking, for instance, of amendments of legal acts and consolidations, to know which texts apply at a given moment in time, because citizens cannot be held to apply laws when they are not yet or no longer applicable. Thirdly, we deploy electronic seals and signatures which guarantee the authenticity and integrity of our official digital records, such as what we call checklegs for acts of the official journal of the European Union. It's one of my colleagues who has the signature there. We don't need the king for that. Other trust signals which are crucial for our work are authoritative vocabularies and metadata standards to consistently define concepts across languages, institutions, and systems to make sure we all talk about the same thing at the same time, enabling interoperability and preventing ambiguity, ensuring clarity and accessibility for all. And it's trust signals like these, an entire toolbox of them, that we develop consistently also to keep track with developments, to allow us to embed or to engineer, if you want, although I'm very cautious with this term. This is not Orwell's 1984. We are not the Ministry of Truth. It's trust signals like these that allow us to build in authenticity and provenance into our systems, our data, our governance from the start. It's trust signals like these that enable AI systems and humans who rely on them to establish authenticity, trace provenance, and preserve authoritative certainty in a digital environment. And this brings me to my final point. Again, the community. Building agentic AI people can trust cannot be done by any single institution or sector alone. It requires the work of an entire community: technologists, designers, ethicists, lawyers, policymakers, public administrations, industry leaders, universities, many more, all working together, aligning architectures, standards, and expectations around a shared commitment to authenticity and accountability. Because in the end, authenticity cannot simply be declared. It must be built, it must be maintained, and in an open, interconnected environment like ours, it must be defended. That's our shared responsibility and also our shared opportunity as we shape the next generation of open, accessible, and trustworthy intelligence systems for Europe and beyond. I'm confident we can do this, and indeed we will, I know that. So thank you very much for your attention. Thank you for having given me this space. Thank you.